Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rich Souls podcast. This is your host, Saara, and today I've got another episode for you. This time it is with Lily Sperry, who is the founder and main writer of Health Gossip, a publication that's talking about health, wellness, and spirituality, which is honestly just such a fun mix. And I had so much fun talking with Lily today. Simply put, I texted her before the show and I was like, I just feel like having a girl chat today. And I feel like that's exactly what this episode turned out to be. In my typical nature, we only hit maybe half of my questions. And so, again, there might be a chance to record with Lily again and to ask her more about health gossip. But today I just kind of again, wanted a girl chat and connect with her. So I met Lily through Grace Abbott's publication, How to Go Freelance. Grace was on the show back in episode 16, if you want to go and listen, because she's also amazing, honestly. But we're both a part of the How to Go Freelance community. And I was like, this Lily girl seems cool. So I asked her to have a virtual meeting. And then we've since had a couple and texted here and there. And I just really, really like Lily. Obviously, that's why she's on this show. And I specifically am excited about seeing her excited about health and wellness. And I also just appreciate what she's doing with Health Gossip and bringing together people to share about their own rituals, regimes, routines with their health, wellness, and spiritual lives, and to just shine a light on the diversity and range of experiences that people are having with trying to refine their health and their well-being. And I think Lily's funny because she kind of has health and wellness hot takes and just marches to her own drum, which is so perfect for Rich Souls, because I don't think I've talked about this explicitly, but such a core tenet of mine as an individual and for Rich Souls is agency. People who think for themselves. That is a quality that I definitely am attracted to with the guests that I bring on the show. It's part of being in their essence is that they do have a strong sense of self-awareness, but also discernment. And I think there's also a nature of them being humble in how they integrate new trends or new wisdom or influence into their lives, but they are using that discernment, that critical thinking to truly sense into whether something is for them. And I think that is so relevant right now with health, wellness, and spirituality and self-development, all these industries slash this parent umbrella industry of health and wellness just blowing up right now. There is so much information. There are so many products. And we talk a little bit about some of those trends today. But I think it's important for all of us to have discernment in this space because there are just so many there's just so many options. And again, so much noise, a lot to wade through. And I just appreciate that Lily seems to have a very strong sense of what works for her and what doesn't. And she's kind of unapologetic about it. And she's not afraid to share those experiences. And even if it goes against the grain. And she also helps broaden the awareness of the range of experiences by bringing other people onto the publication to share what's working for them and what's not working for them. And I also think the mix of health, wellness, and then spirituality is so fun. I think that this might not be news to some of you, but there seems to be a very apparent pipeline of health and wellness to spiritual / self-development. And we touch on this again a little bit in the episode, but my first kind of jaunt with self-awareness and self-development, I think truly did start with health and specifically having some minor, but still very prevalent and health issues as a child, specifically with my digestion. So I was fortunate that it was never something super serious, but I was uncomfortable enough that it did cause me to become more reflective about my body and about what I was putting into my body, how I was treating my body, how I was talking to my body. And that eventually I think did evolve into my interest now in just general self-discovery and self-refinement. And so whenever I talk to Lily, it feels like kind of tapping into that part of me that was so into health and wellness. And I'm still into health, wellness, and biohacking for sure, but it's not I wouldn't say it's my passion. It's kind of like an accoutrement to this kind of core thing of self and spiritual exploration. But yeah, I just like have such a fun time gabbing with her. And I often honestly don't know about like all of the people that she mentions and all of the like tools and tricks either that she mentions. But I love that. I love that I get to learn about this world that I am interested in through her, and I trust her taste. And I also just like love seeing her so lit up about these topics and having an opinion. And again, like letting herself be a little contrarian, but also still so humble. And again, that like quality of agency is just really, I think, powerful in this day and age. And I think Lily is one of the guests that, I mean, all of my guests that do have that quality. All that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode. I think it's a little bit more of like a fun, casual, kind of entertaining one. And I also recognize that if you're listening to this, I mean, in general, for anybody, even for anybody who's not listening to this, there's just so much content out there nowadays, especially with audio, with podcasts and audiobooks and music. And I just recognize that if you're spending your time, energy, and attention listening to this, like, thank you for being here. And I hope that when you're listening, you are getting an opportunity to like enjoy yourself, but that is not just infotainment, but you are also feeling, and maybe it's like natural in your process, but you're kind of like getting the chance to reflect on yourself and your own process and like the things that you like, and reflect on like how what we're talking about affects you. And so I hope that this episode does help you do that, because it really does feel like it was a bit more of like a chat between friends. And I think it was fun, but we also are still talking about, fairly deep things. And so I don't know, I think that's fun to listen to. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And you will hear from me and Lily in just a few seconds. Okay, welcome to the show, Lily.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Okay, I want to pick up the thread that we were just pulling on, because I kind of want to stop posting to Substack.
Yeah. I feel that. On like notes or just your essays, like your posts?
Essays and podcasts, like just as a distribution tool.
Yeah.
I've never really fully liked Substack. I feel like I liked it for a month. And then I don't know, like the algorithm, it's been changing so much. I was even talking to some people at Writing Club today. They were like trying to customize their profiles. And I was like, whoa, they've added so many features for customizing the websites and things now. Yeah, no, it's more of an intuition, but it's kind of scary because there's like, I have somewhat of an audience there. So I'm like.
Right. Would you migrate to like Beehive or a different distribution platform, or just launch your own thing? Or continue with your own thing?
Well, I think part of the reason I want to get rid of it is because, I'm feeling into getting rid of it is because the podcast. I'm like, this is the number one thing to pour into. And I do like writing, but like, this is the thing. And so, yes, I can use it as a distribution tool there, and it sort of could help, but I don't really post notes anymore. And also people don't go there for podcasts necessarily, although I've heard like people are experimenting with it more. So
yeah, no, I know it feels like they're kind of trying to force the podcast thing, the short form video thing, which we definitely don't need another platform for. And you're right, it's like it feels like it's also just changed a lot in the past 6 months, and it's so much more saturated. There's also this certain tone that I've noticed on Substack notes that is a little bit irksome, like the kind of like, just a girl living my analog lifestyle, going to the cafe, and like, I love them, but it's just, I don't know, it's frustrating when like a platform develops kind of like a specific vibe. And I guess that's how Tumblr was in a way. And this is a huge generalization. Like this is probably just in our kind of niche on there. But yeah, I've been enjoying just like really like posting and then leaving, but like not really like lurking on the platform that much. And also having my Instagram page and kind of decentralizing it.
You took the words out of my mouth with Tumblr. And also the word that came to mind was it's like performative posting. It feels
For
like
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel very sensitive to nowadays. I feel like I can't listen, like podcasts are not that appealing. Like I can listen to some music, but it's usually like instrumentals that I like would do in breath work. I don't know if it's called instrumentals or like different kinds of like melodic EDM.
It's nice to kind of just like come to terms with that, or to just kind of accept that it's not something that we're needing right now. Um, because sometimes it feels like, especially with like listening to podcasts all the time, it's just like you're just taking in information like endlessly. And then for myself at least, I felt like I wasn't really applying it to my life, or I was doing it as a way to escape versus sitting in silence and like downloading everything that was coming to me without Spotify or without like any of these other um more worldly like channels, you know?
I feel the same way. I feel like the silence has been coming for me for like 2 to 3 years. And then recently it's just been like I have a one in my profile in human design. You know about human design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a one, so it's the information seeker. So yeah, I was listening to like 10 podcasts a day at a certain point, and some of them are lectures, and it was just like I knew it was a lot, but I was like just voraciously learning. I think it was very satisfying. And now I'm just like every day, every week, like with life events, I'm just learning through experience and then oscillating between like my intuition and moving through whatever might be coming up from what's happening in life and then taking the aligned action in life. And then on it goes.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay, let's dive into the questions. Okay, so first of all, for those that don't know you, what do you do and how do you describe health gossip?
For sure. Yeah. So I'm a writer, and I'm also the editor and founder of Health Gossip, which is a newsletter and a community for mostly women, I'd say, but it's for everyone. That's exploring mind, body, and spirit, kind of how we take care of ourselves in these different ways, and um, yeah, and kind of giving a platform to people who don't normally get a platform, to be honest. Like, I feature a new guest every Sunday, and I have them fill out this questionnaire about their health habits and kind of their philosophies, what their daily routines look like. It's a little bit like anthropological, is how I've heard it described. And I have different writers or health practitioners or just people I really admire come on the newsletter. And yeah, I just really wanted to create the space that felt quite community focused and not so dogmatic, because I think there's so much dogma in the health and wellness space, and so many people telling their followers what to do with their health, and then it's like always changing like every few weeks, and it's really confusing. And um yeah, so I felt like there was such like a white space in the media landscape with health and wellness, and also just like so many insights that I was discovering on like health Twitter that weren't being translated for other audiences. So my goal was just to kind of like socialize the more maybe esoteric or like niche health content, while also creating this community that people really feel like they're a part of. And that's definitely like the energy that I'm leading with this year, especially with throwing more events. And I'm planning, I have a retreat coming up in New York in April, and then I'm planning one this summer also. So yeah, but it's been such a joy. It's also like something that I personally really wanted and needed, I think. And I think that is really like a great energy to lead with, like whenever you're launching something, is to just kind of identify like what you yourself are wanting, because normally that means that others are wanting it too, and not overthinking it so much and just starting. Um, yeah, and I think especially with health and wellness and with healing, sometimes it feels like quite an isolated experience, and sometimes that's out of necessity. Like, even if you're, you know, have like a chronic illness, or you're like really in the depths of healing from something, like you do kind of have to spend time alone maybe and kind of cut out the external noise. Um, but my goal is to really like create this community. I keep saying community, but and it's such an overused word, but that does feel like true to what the project is.
Yeah, there's always somebody new on health gossip. It's so interesting. And I actually was looking at the page the other day, like your about page, and then I saw the like true etymology, reference the true etymology of
Yeah,
the word gossip.
I
Can you
know.
explain
Isn't that
that?
crazy? Yeah,
It's
so I didn't know
crazy.
this going into the project. Like the name just came to me one morning. And I never really identified, like I'm not a huge gossiper. I don't really love that. But then I was looking to that into the etymology like last year, and in like the Old English, it originally means like godkin, and it was particularly like referring to women, like women who were present at the site of a childbirth, which is crazy, or neighbors, people that are in your direct vicinity that are supporting your family or like supporting your becoming. But I feel like the being present at the site of a birth image is just so crazy accurate to like the spirit of the project, because it does feel like an act of like witnessing our collective becoming, that kind of through these different interviews. And that's something that I'm really interested in personally, because obviously we're going through so many collective shifts right now. And just the act of witnessing is so important. So yeah, it's not meant to be this like, like tabloid or like um gossip in the sense that we know it now, but yeah, kind of referring to the old English use of the word. It's funny how like we like are drawn to these words and we don't even necessarily know the etymology or like know what their original context was, and then you look it up and it's so resonant, even with like our names or like
Oh my
things that we're drawn
gosh.
to, like all of these
Yeah.
synchronicities, like it's so beautiful.
It
Yeah,
really is. Yeah. And it, like, to get a little conspiratorial makes me wonder because sometimes the words that, like, in this case, gossip, there are other ones that come to mind, but they have to do with like affiliation with women or the feminine. And it makes you wonder, like, how did these words get distorted or like come to be perceived as negative things? And I think part of why we're attracted to these words now, and they do just like drop in like a download and then we learn the back end of things. It's like part of the, I think like the new paradigm is the divine feminine just like coming back into harmony with the divine masculine. So
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, even the word doctor originally means like teacher, which feels so much more accurate to what
really,
like a really exemplary doctor is. Like, they're teaching you to like teaching you to kind of in-source, or just teaching you practices that you can apply in your like day-to-day life. And like, whenever I've worked with a really like great doctor, like that's been the experience. Like, I feel like a student of theirs.
okay, so I also want to talk about like the pipeline because you talk about health and wellness, but you also definitely talk about spirituality, as do your contributors. And I feel like there is a pipeline that's like pretty well carved out now of like the health, like the woman, the female with health issues pipeline to like spiritual, like to the spiritual world. And I know that was my case. Like I had like all sorts of like digestive issues when I was like, I don't know, like 10, 11, 12. And then now I like they've mostly gone away. But even my family, like first of all, like so much of my extended family thinks I'm vegetarian. I was vegetarian or vegan for like maybe a year of like not really because I would have sushi every like once a quarter or something. And then my like and my parents and my brother are just always like telling me I'm so like my stomach is like not strong. And I'm like, I eat anything and everything nowadays, like because of the I think the spiritual work I've done where I'm eating yogurt like every single day nowadays. I could not do that a long time ago. So anyway, I'm sure you've observed that through your interest in health and wellness. And I wonder if that's like affected your life as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was reflecting on it today when I was kind of looking at your questions. And I mean, obviously, like, there needs to be some sort of crack for the light to get in. And I think that often it takes these like very intense physical experiences, maybe like periods of suffering or illness, injury, whatever, like for God or the divine to come in kind of when we're at our lowest. And I think also when we're at our lowest physically, like that actually creates an opening. Um, for kind of the spirit world to enter. Um, and that's kind of been repeated like time and time again with my guests. And then that was my own experience, because in 2018, so my senior year of college, I had like my first major injury of my life. Like I grew up like very I had a great childhood. I never broke a bone. I never had any sort of injury. And then the first semester of my senior year, I was being silly and like was like out late one night and then scratched my cornea and yeah, like taking out my contact and then literally woke up and it just felt like there were like shards of glass in my eye. It was so disorienting. It was like the most pain I've ever felt in my life. I was also like far away from family, like on the East Coast. I grew up in Chicago. So yeah, I had to like fly home and then I was basically just recovering in this dark room for like 2 months straight, like no sun, no light. Um, so I think that definitely cracked me open. It kind of made me realize like how much I had taken my health for granted. And also I think there was a lot of symbolism with like it being my eye because I think one of my um I don't think it's a wound, but like something that I've been working through in this lifetime is like maybe a fear of being seen or like not fully seeing myself, not wanting to be fully seen by other people. I grew up very shy. So like this eye injury kind of made me realize like the extent to which I hadn't been like fully seeing myself. And then as a reflection of that, wasn't allowing people to see me. Um, I didn't really realize that in the moment, but with time, it's kind of checked out. And I think, especially when you look at injuries or symptoms through like a German new medicine lens, you can kind of start to put these pieces together. I don't know if you're familiar with GNM, but it's a whole thing. We can get into it. But yeah, so I had that injury and then after graduating, I moved to New York and um yeah, I just kind of like had more of a direct awakening, I'd say. Just through like really direct encounters with God and like I don't know, just really feeling that presence that I hadn't really felt before. Um and that's when I started reading like more of the Christian mystics like Simone Weil and Edith Stein and also Rudolf Steiner. Um and just kind of like opening myself up to that world after effectively being um more atheist, I'd say, in college. You're just not really like having any sort of spiritual practice or like prayer practice. I grew up Christian, Presbyterian, but yeah, so that was definitely like my entry into this work was kind of that injury and then the subsequent like awakening and yeah, so it's funny how that pattern is like mirrored in a lot of other people's experiences and um I think whenever you're really just forced to like sit with yourself, like a lot of breakthroughs can come just from that. And I've been experiencing that now too, like in my studio apartment, like in a new city, like still kind of adjusting and just spending more time alone and yeah, that's kind of how the light gets in. But I think with health gossip, like you're right, like there is a spiritual component, and that's something that I really want to bring in more of like this year. I just launched a new series yesterday called In Prayer, which is about different people's prayer practices. It's written by a contributor of mine, Lola, who's in Los Angeles. And yesterday she interviewed the lead Christian chaplain at Cedar Sinai Hospital, who also like practices Reiki on her patients. And yeah, it was a really beautiful, beautiful piece. So that's fresh off the
I need
press.
to read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's nice like I'm appreciative like most of my guests end up having some sort of connection to this world which works out quite well like kind of given the scope of the project. And I never want to like force it, but that is one of the questions that I ask is like, do you have a spiritual practice? And some people will answer and they'll be like, driving is my spiritual practice. And then others like Tao Lin, who I just had on, like he is very, very in it.
Wow, that's so fun. I I also feel like, and this is just my experience, so maybe it's just like one fragment of like kind of what's captured in this process or like that transition from like a focus on health to also like broadening the scope to spirituality or like connection to the divine and self is that when you're like really I keep using the word dialing lately, but like when you're like dialing your health and you're not having substances that are overstimulating, like even too much caffeine, and you are resting well and you're harmonizing with the earth and you're not getting too much blue light. Like when you're controlling all of those variables, or rather coming back to living more primally while also being in 2026, and your body's more in harmony, I feel like it allows heightened perception of senses in general, and that includes extra senses that I think are somehow related to intuition.
That's kind of how I define health, is like having this channel open where I can receive these messages. Because I think when our physical selves are in like working order, quote unquote, and like, connected to the rhythms of nature, that's when we can really connect the most fully with our purpose and with our like soul essence, and just be the most like present in our lives too. So it's really connected.
It's like present to experience and receive.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think also like lately I've really been more focused on my spiritual and like emotional health versus my physical health, because I think that is really the root of everything. Um and you can like do so much like nervous system work, or like so much, I don't know, treat so many symptoms, but if you're not getting to the root cause, which I believe is emotional, energetic, and spiritual, then you're not really healing. Um, so I think that's something that I see a lot actually in the mainstream like health media, is like this focus on the symptoms, this focus on how we look even, or these very surface level things that are actually so deeply rooted in realms and in states that we can't always directly see. Um, yeah. So I think again, it's just such an important part of the conversation, and one that is often missing.
But also like I'm in such a bubble, I think.
Yeah, Austin.
Austin, but also just like my circle and what I think about, and thank goodness for that because it's so normal to think about these different bodies, like yes, the physical body and the spiritual, the mental and the emotional, and how they're working together. But yeah, like I was just sharing with my personal trajectory with this, is like so much of my process early on was like focusing on my health and like realizing like foods I was sensitive to, not because of tests necessarily, but like that I was having reactions to. But oh, that sharpened my interoception to be able to tell like, oh, this is how I feel when I have raw cabbage, which actually I like love. That's like a
I
huge one, right?
love cabbage. Yeah.
Cruciferous vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a huge one. I'm laughing too because I eat cabbage like every single day, raw and cooked. And yeah, I have friends who will get it because I eat it so much and I'm just like obsessed with cabbage and like don't get sick of it. And then they have issues, right? Because it's also adaptation, like actually on a physiological level. But like back in the day, I couldn't eat like raw broccoli and cabbage in the same day and dairy. But yeah, like I said, it was building that interoception, which leads to the intuition. And then suddenly the health issues just like started like falling away. And I still get things every now and then, but I'm very grateful to not be as much like in like a physical healing realm. And even like now emotional healing is changing for me, and it's just kind of like it's like interacting with all of the bodies in a way based on like what's actually happening, and it's quite fun. It's like a game. Life is like a game. I love how like educated you are on different things in health though, because I kind of like dropped that at a certain point because then I found spirituality. I'm like, oh, this is my sauce, right?
Right,
But
right. Yeah.
I like love when we talk because you'll tell me about a podcast that I'd never heard about. But like I used to be so into health podcasts, like, and there are probably few because as I'm sure you know, like the health and wellness industry nowadays is like
Yeah.
huge.
It's a big money maker. It's a huge industry too. Like it's crazy.
I know. And the spiritual industry is like kind of a part of it, which is it's just so I didn't even think the spiritual industry was a thing until like 2 years ago. And then I had to like have a come to Jesus moment and be like, oh, this is an industry. Okay.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's funny. I guess I'm just a nerd, or I just really enjoy learning about it. I think I'm a little bit like, um, rebellious too. I just really don't trust the mainstream narrative on most things. So whenever I'm learning these more alternative perspectives, like it feels so validating, and I'm like, oh my God, this all makes sense. Like that's why I feel this way when I'm in this situation, or like me, like this is why I'm feeling such ennui, because I'm like so detached from nature in the way that I'm living right now, like in a big city, like stuff like that. It's very validating. And I think that in order to live in a healthy way in our society now, you have to live a bit alternatively. And I'm sure in a place like Austin, it feels less alternative, but like in Chicago, for example, like there's not so much of a health and wellness scene here, and people aren't as tapped in. So I feel like I feel very alternative here just in my practices, because it goes against kind of my the current like culture here. But then also it's very like liberating to learn this stuff, because then you're able to kind of build your inner toolkit and your like resources. And of course we have like it's kind of a God-given thing that we have, or like we're born with all of these with access to these things that can bring us closer to nature, but sometimes um there's a lot of programming that like prevents us from accessing that. So it all kind of feels like a great like return almost to like our our true like human state in a way.
I know. It's so interesting. We're just trying to get back to like literally Earth. Like it's so simple, and Earth is everywhere. We're on this planet, and yet there are so many barriers to actually truly connecting with Earth.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
um I think this is a natural segue into the topic on trends, because obviously there are so many, and I'm curious of your thoughts on some of them.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to rapid fire some of these. So, like some of the things that you're into and the things you don't like, but I also just have like my personal curiosities of like
Yeah.
certain things, like
Yeah.
peptides.
Oh my God, I know.
What do you think about peptides?
I haven't gone super down that rabbit hole. I've been kind of avoiding it. And also there's so many different like use cases for them. Like I think the weight loss ones are a nice Kickstarter for people who have to lose like a lot of weight, but I think they're definitely being abused. And then it's interesting to look at certain studies where it shows that like when people are on these appetite suppressants, it also affects their like general libido, like for life, like their like the fire in their eyes, their ability to feel romantic love, like all of that. And you're kind of seeing that right now. Like even you look at celebrities who are like so peptided out, and like they just look like zombies. I think that's also due to other reasons, but there's just this like it's just like glassy eyes and like nothing going on behind there. And I think that the peptide use is potentially contributing to that. But I don't know. I think everyone's on their own like journey with it too. And I try not to like judge or write anything off. I think personally, I believe that, I mean, peptides, I guess the whole argument for them among like holistic circles is that they are compounds or like proteins that our body already produces, so they're like natural. Like it's not the same as like a pharmaceutical necessarily. um so that's like an argument that I've been seeing a lot in more holistic circles, because it also like the weird thing is that you've seen a lot of these more holistic people just like jump on them like immediately, and there's no real like explanation of why they're using them. They're just like on Instagram like comment peptides for my stack, or like I don't know, like it's so casual, like their use of it and their promotion of it. And that always makes me a little bit skeptical, like even when people just adopt things so quickly and things are normalized so quickly, like that always feels a bit suspicious to me. um, but yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I was looking at, because there are like oral peptides too, like they're capsules that you can just buy over the counter online. Um, I was looking at this one website today. I was a little curious, but maybe like I don't know. With some of these things, I'm like, okay, maybe when I'm in my 40s, I'll understand. Like, I'm in my 20s. Like, I don't really feel the need to like go full biohacker with anything, but it's probably a different story. Like when you're old, when you're a lot older. I don't know. What do you think about them?
I'm gonna tell you, but really quick, when you said I don't want to go full biohacker with them, but I just pictured this post of your, like you were saying, like it was like the caption was like your work from home friend on a random Tuesday, and it's like red light, and then you had the like
Oh my God, the
pincushion.
Shakti mat. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, I mean, you're definitely biohacking in other ways, but
for sure.
um
Yeah.
I think you captured my sentiment on it, and especially when anything is going mainstream and kind of like my perception, granted I generally live under a rock, is that it kind of just came up out of nowhere and then suddenly it was everywhere. And I think that always, yeah, I'm just again just generally going to be skeptical of things that are mainstream to at least a degree. And I'm totally open to shifting my mindset on that, not even based on evidence, but based on like what are the actual reports. But the actual reports and like what we can observe is what you described of like, firstly, some of the data is like lacking for these. And then also, there is a apparent lack of light in people's eyes who are taking them. And also, again, maybe that's because of other factors, but it's like the through line with people who are on peptides seems to be like that. And then also just the whole, this is like kind of an old conversation, but even with like GLP-1, specifically like the weight loss one, I think there are others now. Again, I don't really know. I live under a rock with these things, but like I think there is something to, sure, there's probably benefits, but also like bypassing the process of achieving something with our health, whether it's weight loss or strength building or whatever else. That like I'm just kind of a like romantic about of like part of my thing is like I just think that the human spirit's capacity to evolve and to do that, including within the physical form, is like an art. It is an art of living. And I think some of that does seem a little bit watered down currently, like with the stage of peptides and how they're being used. And yeah, it's just so normalized. Like I think I heard there were like peptide commercials during the Super Bowl. Wouldn't know because, you know, Super Bowl. But like it's just like everywhere. And yeah, and like to what avail? Like we don't know the long-term outcomes, and there are other ways to do these things that are going to be more gratifying to our spirit, not just our body. And yeah, that said, I've had a hip injury for like 2, 3 months now, and it's kind of like stemming from something I've had, which is also actually symbolic. That if anything, that's the thing I'm dealing with right now. But like with my physical health. But a friend this week told me about one of the supplemental peptides that I'm actually curious about trying. And Dave Asprey, Joe Rogan, like there was like a video on the website. It was like Joe Rogan, Dave Asprey, and then like some other people were just talking about this particular peptide that's been used for a long time, specifically for sports recovery. And I'm like, I guess I might try that. But I I also think it's wild of how normalized it is to just be jabbing ourselves with needles.
I know.
All of
I
a sudden
know.
everybody's cool with needles, and I don't
It's
know, it's just
crazy.
interesting.
I know, because I feel like our society is like generally like very averse to suffering and to pain, but like people are just, yeah, poking themselves
Well, and
daily with
also
these
the
things.
affiliation with drugs, like it's also historically like obviously used in medicine, but again, like for like conditions that are not like every single day, you know? And now it's just like, yeah, I'm like sticking myself. I don't know if it's like 1 or 2 times a day, but I think that is just like interesting. It's all very interesting. It's an interesting experiment to observe from the outside.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start seeing like more of the spiritual consequences in the coming years. And then also, of course, like it's gonna trigger like a counter movement, or I think right now we're kind of seeing more of an interest in like unconventional beauty and like the opposite of Instagram face and kind of like imperfections. Like I saw this one TikTok with a casting agent and he was saying like we're specifically looking for women with like no filters or sorry, no fillers, no peptides, yeah, same thing. You know, no work done. And I mean, we've been talking about that for a few years, I think, like natural beauty and um how everyone kind of looks the same right now, but I think there's going to be more of an interest in like human imperfection in the coming years. Yeah, I think something that comes up for me a lot with these trends of peptides or of like endless biohacking is just like, what is it all for? Like, like I think we have to really keep that in mind. Yeah, because I think a lot of the time it kind of fuels this like worshiping of the self and kind of treating the self like a god. And that is is kind of demonic, to be honest, or it feels very nefarious. And it's I don't know, it's kind of like degenerative in a way, like to have a culture where people are just worshiping themselves versus focusing on being of service or like aligning with their purpose or just like being present with the world around them and not having their whole worldview being like organized around optimizing their physical selves and being like the hottest they can be or whatever, trying to achieve this like impossible standard of perfection. So it's interesting to see it all play out for sure. It also feels very masculine, I think.
Wow, I haven't heard that take. Tell me more.
Yeah, like treating the body as a machine, like looking at all of these markers and like wanting to improve the markers. And I think just like whenever you're trying to optimize, like it just feels like you're thinking about things in a very linear way, in a very almost like in a way that's like oriented around productivity, efficiency, all of these things that are traditionally more aligned with like masculine energy. And I think a lot of these practices also kind of go against like female physiology, like with the cold plunges, the intermittent fasting, like
Oh my God, don't get me started on that.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure in Austin, like it's a huge thing. And there's a way to do it like smartly as a woman, like at a certain point in your cycle, but it can be very jarring for our physiology. It's very stressful and it can cause like infertility. So I've been happy to like see more of that kind of in the mainstream conversation. There's this one writer who I really love on Substack. Her name's Nadia, and she is definitely more on like the bioenergetic side of things, like very much like a follower of Ray Peat, but she talks about this like soft biohacking model where it's a more feminine approach and it's more about, getting strong, like lifting for strength and like just doing things that support a higher quality of life and like the willingness or like the ability to feel more joy and to have an abundance of energy that you can, you know, bubble out to like the people around you. And I think that really resonates a lot more with me. She's really cool. She's in Paris. She's also like in her 40s and just recently started weightlifting and like doing all of these lifestyle changes. So yeah,
Okay, yeah.
big
Sounds like a
inspo.
vibe.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, so I think I want to take this specifically to the point that you've shared, I feel like a couple of times on Substack of like really the thing that you can do to become the hottest, which actually this is my goal for the year, everyone. This is like vulnerable sharing this in a way, but like my goal, I got a ping at like the start of the year and I was like, oh, my goal is to be energetically hot. Like, what does that mean? And it
aura maxing.
Aura maxing, yes. Oh my gosh. It is like this well-rounded process. Like if I actually was like I was like energetically hot. Like what does that mean? And it like there is a physical component, but it is the mental, emotional, spiritual. And I feel like I've seen you post this several times of like just that, like the to be hot, just like work on yourself, but not just your physical self.
For sure. Yeah.
Just like yeah, work on your spirit and then it just radiates outward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I guess that's like quantum physics 101 or like manifestation 101 is that our external reality reflects our internal state. And that can be this like true for our magnetism also. Because I think hotness is ultimately about magnetism and aura. And I think right now, like, not to be negative, but like there's kind of a lack of aura, like in the day to day. Like, again, maybe I'm just in the Midwest and like,
I
I don't
think
know.
I'm in a bubble. We're
Yeah,
having
you're in a
like
bubble.
all
I need to come to Austin, but aura aura is a little bit harder to find or like a resonant aura. I don't know.
Yeah, resonance
But
is huge.
yeah, yeah. But I think even just like living in alignment will help support all of these things. Like it's all related. And I think people can get really lost when they're just focused on their physical appearance. Um, because it's so like it's so 3D and there's so much more to it. Um, yeah. And I felt, you look at pictures and you can kind of like you can see like past pictures of yourself. You can kind of judge like where your energy was at then, or like tell, or even just like the light in your eyes. Like there are all these different biomarkers that aren't measured in like blood work or in these biohacky tests, just like the light in our eyes, or you know, our skin or our laugh, like stuff like that. I think it's an underrated like sign of health and of yeah.
I think another one that is coming to mind while you're listing those is like embodiment of in voice. That's been very interesting for me to see, especially with making the podcast. Um, okay, well, how are you aura maxing nowadays?
Again, just like really living in alignment, focusing on that. That's been a little bit challenging because I do intuitively feel like long term I'm not necessarily meant to be in a city. I've been feeling kind of like bogged down by the urban hustle lately. Um, and I feel like I'm living out of alignment right now, to be honest, like in my physical surroundings, like in my career and like what I'm working on, I feel so aligned and like that is just like flowing. But in my day to day, it's not quite landing with me. So that's something I've been like really thinking about the past few days, is like the changes that I would like to make to kind of really, um, I guess, buckle down on the alignment. But I think with aura maxing, like it's really a matter of like returning to yourself and really reducing the amount of like external input that you're receiving. Um, and just maximizing your time outside, like in the sunshine, really dialing in on your sleep, on your diet, eating whole foods, eating locally, ideally, um, in season. Like I think food is also like a big part of it. Um, and just honoring your truth. I think also like having difficult conversations and just being kind of mm, like brutally honest in a way helps support your aura. Like a few months ago, I had like a really difficult sort of like boundary setting conversation with a relative. And right after, I just felt like this huge release. And I think that that definitely um, has an effect. But yeah, it's hard to talk about these things sometimes because it feels a bit like hard to like attach language to, or just like almost like pre-linguistic, or just something that you kind of intuitively feel, or that um yeah. So I don't know, I've been enjoying there's this really beautiful woman named Ashley Aurora who like has an Instagram presence, and she also has a YouTube, and she recently posted a video on like frequency maxing. And I think she's really into like also just like the music that you listen to. I mean, kind of what we were talking about earlier, but just really making sure that the input that you're receiving is like aligned with your vision of how you want to be living your life. I think there's a lot of just like very negative programming that we're surrounded by, like with mainstream music, with mainstream like television and movies and pop culture. Um, yeah, and I used to kind of like judge myself for not knowing the names of like more actors, or like I watch like two movies a year maybe. Um, I used to kind of judge myself for not being more tapped into that, but now I'm really grateful because I think there's a lot of darkness there, and again, I just really don't trust these mainstream narratives, or these a lot of it's almost like propaganda too.
Yeah, I think and I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit hole, but something I have observed, which, like, as somebody who doesn't really watch movies or TV, I watch like two YouTubers here and there, like, and then I have my podcast here and there. But I noticed, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, there were a couple of documentaries, specifically, I believe on Netflix, that were talking about like the spiritual industry. Like I think they did a documentary on either Guru Jagat or like Kundalini that was like tearing her down. I was like, what is this propaganda?
I know. It's like they kind of sensationalize it, I think. Um, that feels like a classic angle that the media takes of like attacking the like woo-woo people or trying to expose some sort of like darkness, which there is darkness there sometimes, but there is like abuse of power. And I think whenever we're treating someone as our guru or as our authority, like above God, in my view, or, above our kind of like spiritual team, like that has a lot of danger attached to it. And I think that's also something I've really been like reflecting on is like if I'm putting anyone else on a pedestal, even with like podcasters that I like, or like Alex Zek, like I mentioned earlier. Like I really trust like his perspective, and I've also met him, so that feels better. But um yeah, I don't think I think we're going to be seeing less of putting people on pedestals. And we've already seen that this year of like kind of the whole celebrity system kind of falling apart and like celebrities kind of losing relevance in a way. I mean, they still are very like central to the media obviously, but I think there's more of like a healthy distrust of them now, which feels nice. But yeah, I don't know. There's just always an agenda with these things. And even with like the Guru Jagat documentary or stuff like that, like you really have to ask, like, what is the agenda? Like they're probably trying to inflate this to like drive more revenue, drive more views. Yeah. It's interesting to watch though, it all go
Yeah,
down.
I was just like, how did this end up on Netflix? This is the weirdest thing. I think it must have been like 2 years now, but I was,
I think there was one on Hulu too. I heard about
oh
it.
gosh. And also, okay, I don't want to get into that because like she's passed away. It's like why that's also it, yeah, anyway, weird. But it's just that whenever I was like into like getting into Kundalini like 8 9 years ago, I like never would have thought there'd have been like a Netflix documentary even like related to the topic, and then there it is on Netflix. But I also think it's interesting with celebrity culture because now there's the migration to social media. So there is still like influencers, but even so, uh even so, I don't know. I'm just realizing how much I live in a bubble. So I don't know if this is relevant. I'm curious of your thoughts, and I think this is like along the lines of what we were texting about a couple weeks ago of like using discernment even with spiritual teachers or yeah, people that you just like look up to in general because there has I think been a lot of pedestalizing even in terms of like certain systems that are out there, whether it's astrology or just like people's personal systems or people as in like teachers or influencers or yeah, creators that are in the spiritual space. And I think that has also been shifting a lot in my life and then with my friends where everybody's like, wait a minute, this is also just noise that's preventing us from connecting with ourselves and our divine team and God. And I need to adjust my relationship to this. And I know you mentioned doing that yourself and you were kind of just like speaking along those lines, but I'm curious if you have more thoughts on that topic and specifically in the spiritual industry.
For sure. Yeah, I think it can be really tempting to just offload the responsibility almost like for your own process, like offload it to someone else, or like there's this temptation to just have some sort of authority kind of tell you what to do. And I think with spiritual stuff especially, it's so vast, it can be very overwhelming. It's also deeply like individual in a way, but then also you kind of like will exit that duality. And especially in these ceremonies, like you're put in a very vulnerable position. And I think that kind of opens the door to just like abuse, to be honest. And um, I think it's so important to be working with people that you really resonate with and that you really trust. But more so like in the industry or like in the media side of things. I have noticed this in the past for myself where I've taken one personality as like the single source of truth, like for my own like spiritual education in a way, and like kind of just taken in their podcast or like their lectures, and then looked at their book recommendations and kind of like only focused on that. And then I don't know, it's just it creates kind of this artificial sense of like what's available to us. But then at the same time, I think there are certain traditions and practices that, you know, we're meant to adopt, and other ones that might not be for us, like right now, or that we might not need. So it's like a matter of just knowing thyself and like having discernment. I think, especially like for me, like in the past few weeks, I've been kind of, I mean, in the past few years, I've been revisiting Christianity and kind of trying out a few different churches and kind of thinking about maybe returning to that faith in a more like formal way. And there's a lot of like negative, mm, I guess, representation of conventional religion, I think, in spiritual spaces sometimes, or like it can be looked down upon, and I totally understand. And there's some different ways to like be a Christian, I think. And lately I've been like looking more into like the Orthodox Church, like Orthodox Christianity, which is definitely more mystical in a way, and more kind of more accepting of the mystery of it all. Even in like the divine liturgy services, like there's just more of kind of like a mysterious element to it, or just I don't know. Like I attended one a few weeks ago and I really felt connected to it. So that's something I've been looking into. But then with like there's also within that tradition like a deep distrust and rejection of things like Reiki or astrology or yoga, stuff that they kind of view as like the new age. So I've been like really grappling with that these past few weeks because I was definitely brought up being around all of that. Like my mom would take me to Reiki when I was a kid, and to her psychics. Yeah, I still have a pretty crunchy mom.
This
Um
makes more sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
um yeah. So I don't know, it's something I've been grappling with like internally, and it's a bit confusing. And then I've been like reflecting on, I think also like a huge theme that I notice in some communities is just like spiritual bypassing, like straight up, and kind of always focusing on the light and kind of neglecting the darkness, which I do think that we need to address, especially right now. And then in myself, I was kind of reflecting and realizing like, oh, you know, I do like edit my language a lot of the time where I won't speak about negative things, or like when I'm on the street, I'll like correct my facial expression so that I'm not like looking sad. And I think it's a weird balance because like obviously our language kind of shapes our reality, and it's so important what we say. And like my mom would always say like your word is your wand. Like it what stories that we tell shape our reality. But then at the same time, it's like important to feel the full spectrum of human emotion and to honor what's coming up for you. So I don't know. I feel like I've been contemplating that for like years now. But um yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
So I do feel like that is the process. Like that is the individual process to be confused at times and then to see what you're magnetized to and what's magnetizing you when it comes to your spiritual development, whether it is through religion or new age, or even through a way that you're just like exercising, or a TV show that you might like, or a podcaster. Like what is your psyche attracted to? Because ultimately all of that is, I think, showing us where we have potential to expand an interest and learn more about something that we might feel a resonance with. And then it's just like that oscillation through that, or exploration through all these different interests. But I do feel like at the times where I've actively sought clarification out has been like through a specific means. Like, so kind of almost leaning, I don't necessarily want to call it dogma, but like leaning into something for like external validation, like to be right, so that I feel like more concrete in my spirituality has been when I've been most confused, I would say, because I do feel very, very open-minded and multidimensional. And I'm like, in astrology terms, I'm a Libra, and with Libra in the 12th house of like the unconscious, I just feel like I can hold so much, so many things can be true for me at once. And I think that's partially why nowadays I feel so enticed by being in the present moment and trusting life's experiences above all. And when I'm saying experiences, I mean like a conversation with a client or with a friend. And oh my gosh, this is so dumb, and like it's like kind of related, but like I feel like I like in the past 6 to 12 months, I've been tested so much with my, and when I say test, I mean I've just had a lot of like friction with experiences with my looks being compromised, like having skin issues. I got a really bad haircut a while ago, or just things like that. And it's like, how am I responding to these things? Like, what narratives come up? Where am I feeling tension in my body? Like, is there something? Because for me, there is usually something deeper. What am I like linking my looks to? Like, why does that matter to me? Or like, why do I care of what this person thinks about me if I'm like compromising my own values or self-perception? And oh, am I guarding my heart in this conversation? It's like or with the podcast, like, like, yeah, like, why am I not hiring the editor when I just like should not be editing? And I've known this about myself for 10 years. So it's like, why was I putting off at the hiring an editor? Like things like that. Like that is like those are my teachers like every single day. And I think the benefit of having dabbled in so many things for quite a bit of time now, like almost 10 years, if not longer, because I've been like thinking about these things since I was a child, is like being able to feel very resourced with different tools and schools of thought. Um, and yeah, and I know like some religions, all the religions actually, I think are against that. They're like, you can't dabble. It needs to be this one thing. Like dabbling is like a slippery slope. And I definitely have been conflicted with that at times too. And I think at least now in this stage is like I've come back to I don't think there's necessarily one right way of doing things. Like for me anyway, it is really just like what's coming through for me. Like what am I being led to? Again, like where are my curiosities? And like what is my soul telling me to do? And not like from a should point of view, but from a like this is just more aligned for me. And for me lately, breathwork has been like a very important tool for kind of accessing that part of me more often. And then, of course, nature, just like sitting in nature. I think there's like a harmony that happens where insights can come in. And then it's actually acting on those insights and getting the data of like what happens when I listen, which is scary because sometimes like I had that come up this week. I don't remember what about, because seriously, like there's so many opportunities for expansion through like going beyond my like current or like whatever recent past like limitations.
I know. I really feel the same, like where I can see the validity of like every perspective basically. Like I'm a very like kind of open channel in that way, and it does feel limiting. I mean, I think commitment can be important, but it sometimes does feel limiting to like commit to one way of doing things versus, like you said, like having this toolkit that you can lean on. And yeah. And then it's like sometimes you just have these like visions or these downloads, and it's like, oh my God, like a lot of this is just like stories that humankind has just been telling ourselves for like thousands of years. And there's a truth that precedes those stories that we all have access to. So it's like it is just kind of whatever resonates. And yeah, yeah, there's just such a vastness to it. But I think returning to things like the breath or to nature, to sunlight, like all of that is just such an anchor for me as well. And just the simplicity of it all too. Yeah. And that's something that I really try to promote in a way, or like remind people of, even on Substack notes. Like it's quite simple at the end of the day. Like we just like to complicate things, especially with health. And like I think a lot of these biohacks and a lot of these more complicated um, routines that we have are to compensate for the fact that maybe we're not living in alignment, or that we're living this very urban lifestyle that's actually quite detached from nature and from what our biology was intended to handle and to do on a daily basis. So once you kind of realize that, like, it all clicks into place, like what our bodies, what our nervous systems were actually designed for, which is like to be in the woods with our, like, tribe of like 15 to 20 people, and to not be bombarded by all of these images like constantly and all of this noise. So my goal in life is to kind of return to that in a literal way too, of like living in a town and growing my food, having my family, working, and my work is on the internet, that's fine, but still just like having it be balanced out by these other things. um and I think that's becoming more and more of a luxury, which is so ironic because like that's what we were, it feels like it should be our right as humans, but there's a lot that gets in the way of that. But I think it's important to like focus our energy on almost building in parallel, or just like not not giving so much attention to what's dying, but um holding the vision of what we want to be creating, and finding the people to do that with. I mean, we're all doing it, but I think it's also important to have these like smaller groups too, and like communities. So yeah, it's not a time for the weak, that's for sure. And I think it's important to kind of remind yourself, like, I chose this. Like, it's all like, I chose this. I'm equipped, and at least it's not boring.
And it's like you said, we're equipped, we have everything we need. I think too, another thing is it's so funny. Like I'm from California. When I was living there, I was like, I need to get out of here. Like I've never really felt like it made sense for me there. And I was like, let me go to the opposite like place. Like I just want to go somewhere green and with nature. So I moved to Nashville, and I like got a condo that was like on a prairie. There weren't really a lot of people. It was like outside of the city. And I thought that was what I wanted. And then I realized it wasn't. And so I think too, it's but there, I think when I had Grace on, she was speaking to this. It's like, and exactly what we've been talking about. It's that following those curiosities of what's calling our spirit forth in the moment, because there's something there for us, especially if there's like a yearning. And it is really beautiful that we get to have those insights, those visions, and then be able to actually make them happen and like live the experience out. And then of course, again, the nature of the human spirit is like, oh, like it compounds some insights and whatnot, and then you might have a totally new direction. And like now I'm living like a mile from downtown Austin, and it feels really good. So it is very like interesting just how like nonlinear our paths can be. And I think that's why it's so important to practice our discernment, whether it's with health and wellness trends, in spirituality, anything really, and whether it's coming from the mainstream or people in your circle, because we are being influenced by everything. And yes, on like the physiological level with like the food that we eat and where it's coming from and how like animals are raised and slaughtered and all those things, yes. And then also in terms of like what are the conversations that we're engaging with, and like what's the tone of the conversations, not even the topics, like what's the tone, what's the vibe, and just practicing that ongoing awareness and discernment in curating those inputs, because it's going to affect our output.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I really like. Like, I think Jenna Zoe has spoken to this a bit, like really just like setting your energy before you enter any sort of space, any conversation, like anchoring into that and leading with that, versus being this like sponge all the time, or like being, I mean, I don't know, mutability can be great, but I think it's important to like just set that frequency for yourself and to lead with that, versus um maybe like stooping to the level of a certain conversation. Not that like you're doing that, or I try not to do that, but I think it's especially important right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll be
Yeah.
confronted with opportunities to do like to partake in conversations, or it's just the nature of the human spirit, right? And like you were saying earlier, there is like darkness in all of us, no matter how spiritual we are. Like, oh, my quotes weren't in. No matter how spiritual we are, we still hold darkness. And like part of the spiritual journey is like, I think accepting that and allowing room for that darkness to also have a seat at the table and therefore other people's darkness, but like not feeding it necessarily. Like Tay, the a recent guest I had on, she was saying this with her business of like there was an opportunity to take a shortcut, and she was like, I still heard the gremlin voice. I like that said take the shortcut. It's gonna be so much easier. But she just chose not to. And um yeah, I think it's just a part of like our process of being able to like have even awareness and maybe relationship to those that gremlin voice that wants to pull us into the dark, and to say like, no, I'm going to choose differently. Have you tried, this is like kind of a tangent but related in regards to like anchoring our energy, but have you tried qigong?
No, but that's something I keep getting a message about, like to try it. Yeah. Have
Okay.
you?
Not really, but the other day, I my friend and I earthed, and which is grounding, and I keep calling it earthing, and apparently people don't know what I'm saying. But I mean, they're
I love it.
inferring. But she's like, "Should we do qigong?" And I was like, "Okay." I've been wanting to try it for like 4 years because one of my really good friends is like obsessed with it. And I think she got a certification and everything. And there's this one where you like lift your arms almost like in sun salutation, and then you just like pull your energy down and you ground into self. And I was like, whoa. And we were doing this barefoot on the land, and it was like, whoa, I need to do this before podcast and after, because that's actually been something with the process, with my process with podcasting, is like not being a sponge, not having the osmosis boundary. And I'm still like learning what that even means and how I do that. But yeah, so that I'm not like a sponge solely taking in, because I think that's part of the gift, but it's like being able to be rooted in myself too, so that I am not getting lost in the sauce. Because that, oh my God, that's happened like most of my life, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that a lot. Yeah. Even with like professionally, like I feel like sometimes when you're creating something that a lot of people want to be a part of, it's especially important to like be discerning with who you let in and with who you allow access to you, to be honest. Or like, I don't know. I think there are also just like energetics there when you have a platform and like people want to use that to elevate themselves potentially. I don't know. That's all just like part of being a creator in the world, in the public sphere.
Totally. And I'm curious how you've navigated that.
Yeah, it's been coming up more lately, like as it's grown, but I think really just like honoring my original vision for the project and um I mean it sounds basic, but just trusting my gut, like trusting my instincts, not always like responding right away, like allowing myself to reach like a neutral place, which is very informed by human design as like an emotional authority. Um and Yeah, and also not just saying yes to things because they sound cool, like on paper or whatever, or like would impress my family. I think that's a huge thing for me right now as I've been like seeing more of them, like living in Chicago. Um, but yeah, just trusting your swag. I feel like that's so important.
Trusting your swag. I
Yeah,
love
and just
that.
leading with that and not being so focused on like external metrics, all of that. I mean, yeah, I feel like it's a dance for like, again, anyone that has a platform. But yeah. And I think also like we draw in the right people, like if we're talk about like frequency, like if we're leading with a certain frequency, that'll attract people who are operating at that same level. So yeah. But yeah, I really want to try Qigong. Yeah. I remember in New York, I would always see there's always like a great community like practicing in Chinatown, like in the park. And I like how there's an outdoor element to it too. Um, yeah, yeah,
I have to
definitely.
learn more about it. I think it might be related to Taoism. I could be totally wrong. But yeah, I think it it is very interesting. I think there's room for me to also learn about it because yeah, just like anything that has to do with like the earth's elements just really resonates. I feel like we can easily feel into that. And along those lines, I actually wanted to ask you this as I was getting ready for the podcast because I was thinking about just noticing like how much my space affects like me going to the podcast, like coming in to record. And it kind of leads to feng shui. And I'm curious because I do think, and the reason I'm bringing this up, this might sound like out of left field, but to me, it's connected to like health, wellness, spiritual, whatever, self development, whatever you want to call it, because it is like an attunement to, again, our inputs in our environment. And so sometimes if like my space is in a disarray, which like it often isn't, but like if something's like if I have stuff in the sink, that's a great example. I've noticed like before I record, I like to wash the dishes because otherwise it just I feel like there's like the clutter and I don't think I used to think it was because like I was like maybe neurotic or something, but I'm like no, I think this is just like my sensitivity increasing and it just has to do with like feng shui. Do you deal with that at all?
Yeah, I do. I think the dishes, like, they're very linked to like prosperity for us. Even just like, I just don't feel like a huge urge to like furnish my apartment perfectly because it's a rental and I don't think I want to stay in Chicago for like much longer. So it's like I don't know, it's a balance of like creating a sanctuary for yourself and honoring that, and also recognizing that like if you buy like a beautiful ceramic mug, like you can take that with you. Like it's not like it's this thing like, oh, like I'm buying this and then I'm gonna leave. Like, you take your stuff with you. So yeah, but I think feng shui is big. Um, yeah. I think the studio apartment is just terrible for feng shui, so I've kind of been like willfully ignoring it. Like literally I have like a sliding glass closet door like right next to my bed right now. And I think I need to move my bed because like I haven't been sleeping very well. Yeah. So it's very real.
It is. It is. I can only imagine, yeah, with the studio, especially depending on the layout of the studio. I imagine in like Chicago, an older city, it's going to be like a box to some degree. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky like mine, it's not just like one room, like it's kind of divided, like the kitchen and
Okay.
my bedroom, but yeah, it's a little bit funky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funky's a good word for it because it is
Yeah.
like it's an eclectic mix of different energies
Hmm.
like
I
in a
know.
home.
Yeah, even like
Yeah.
thinking in terms of like yin and yang, like to have kind of the yin bedroom and then I have like my workspace in the bedroom. But this is all information for me of like what I really want in my future home. So it serves a purpose. Yeah.
Exactly. It's contrast.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think light is also I mean, I don't know if
Oh my
that
gosh. Yeah.
relates to feng shui in like such a direct sense, but I feel like that is such a huge factor with all of this too. And like that's something
Oh
that
my
I
gosh.
feel really influenced by. Um, yeah, my apartment definitely like looks like a brothel at night. I have the candles and the red light going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, like whenever like spend the night at my mom's, like her boyfriend is like so into the overhead lights and like I like act like I've like seen a ghost or something, or it's just like it's too much. And like when I was staying there for like a few weeks, like I would unplug the Wi-Fi router and then that caused like some issues. Um yeah, we all have our preferences, but yeah, I think we do get more sensitive to these things like as we kind of develop maybe spiritually too, or like inner health. Even fragrance too, like I'm pretty sensitive to that. Like out in public, like on the bus, I can like smell perfume like so strongly. I feel like a pregnant woman. Oh, do you have like a one bedroom, or like what's your feng shui setup?
I have a one bedroom. My desk is in my living room. So I'm mostly in my living room during the daytime. I don't really spend time in my bedroom aside from for sleeping, getting ready. So I do have that separation. I've never, or I think I did have because I've worked from home for like a decade. So I did have my desk in my bedroom, like earlier on right out of college, but otherwise, like I have needed the separation, like for obvious reasons, especially working from home. So yeah, I would say there's a good level of separation, but I have been finding myself craving a space specifically for my practices, which I don't have. I do it in the living room and it's fine. And I have the caves environment in human design, selective caves specifically. So I definitely am naturally, I've always been like this since I was a kid though, but have just like being selective of who's in my space. So it's like every space is mine and like sacred in that way. But at the same time, I think it would be fun to have like a special space where I get to actually have an altar again. Because right now my altar is on my TV stand, which I like turn on my TV very rarely, like if anything, like during Christmas and for like ambiance backgrounds. And yeah, I find myself like actually speaking to light, like going to the window and like doing my meditation and my practices there. But yeah, that's something I'm kind of calling in is like I like my one of my coaches has this like amazing furry rug that I've like felt and I'm like, oh, I need this rug. But I want to get it and I'm like, I don't have space to there's nowhere to put it. So I need like a little corner, set up a little altar. It works well. And I have a tree outside. I mean, I live in an apartment and I like see other buildings, but I have a tree and it makes such a big difference to have. Thank goodness for it.
I love that. I love
I love
trees.
having, I know trees are the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me see here. We're coming to the end. And I don't think I asked. See, I told you, I was like, I feel like it's going to be girl chat vibes.
It's been flowing.
This will be a good segue before going into the closing questions because we've been talking about how well, for those that don't know, you were in New York and then you, in the last year, moved back to Chicago where you're from, or like I think the greater Chicago area. And then now that you're back and you're like starting to feel into, oh, there's somewhere else that I want to go. And I feel like it seems like from the outside it's kind of mirrored your career trajectory because you also like left a corporate job, right? And then you have been freelancing, building out health gossip. And that's obviously having a new stride with its evolution with you bringing in community events. So anyway, I'm just kind of curious of like if you were already kind of having that internal dialogue with yourself of like these transitions and yeah, just how you're navigating that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny like how the job came about because I wasn't actively like applying to stuff so much. Like I was putting out an intention of wanting something in the health and wellness world with like a team that I really got along with and where I would have like a good amount of agency and which would be like complementary to the other work that I was doing. And a recruiter ended up reaching out like a month or two ago. And yeah, I'm starting on Monday. It's like a marketing position at this molecular hydrogen company. And it's more of a startup vibe, which definitely is preferable to like the corporate world. I don't know if I'd ever want to go back to that, but yeah, so that's been a nice like development. I think I am someone who really likes structure and sometimes I get a little bit exhausted like setting all of the structure for myself. So I'm excited to kind of return to an environment where I'm working with a team and we have, like a set amount of tasks like per week. And like, I mean, I haven't started yet, so I don't know exactly what the workflow is going to be like, but this is what I'm imagining. And yeah, because like I've just, freelance life, like it can be, it's just kind of you. So it's a very different working experience. And with health gossip too, like I haven't really brought in any other people like on the editorial side so much. Like I have contributing writers, but I'm the only like editor and publisher. So that's also something I've been thinking about, like as I gain more resources too from this job, like how I can use that to um support the growth of these other things and hire more help. Um yeah, and then with the move, I mean, I think I knew coming into it, like Chicago wouldn't be my forever home. Like I did grow up in the city and I'm living like a mile away from my childhood home. So it's kind of funny. I saw it as like kind of a stepping stone for me because I knew that I really needed to leave New York. I was there for 6 years almost. I was also traveling a lot during that time. Like I was gonna move to Berlin. I was in Europe a lot, working my remote job, but um yeah, so like almost like in terms like directionally, like Chicago is kind of a stepping stone because I know I'm gonna end up like out west somewhere.
Oh, I didn't
Um
know this.
yeah, that's what I've always like felt called to. I really want to just be near mountains and just more nature. So yeah, but it's like I don't know. I feel like I'm in this kind of liminal place with that where it's not necessarily a move that I feel ready to make on my own, especially if I'm not like in a big like moving to a city. Yeah, I've really been like learning how to just kind of sit in the liminality and while also like honoring my nature and not settling for a life that I don't want. Um,
Yeah.
and it's been like, I don't know, it's been frustrating. Like yesterday and today, like I've just been like a lot of emotion has been moving through me, which is so beautiful, but it can be um hard in the moment to just feel really sad or yesterday I was like crying on the stair climber at the gym like but it was beautiful, like it was moving through me, but like also just I don't know, lately when I've been at the gym I just realized like how unnatural it is. Like you see people on the elliptical and it's like it's not like a natural like movement, for the human body, the fluorescent lighting, the music. There's always like weird like sexual politics in the gym too, I feel like. I don't know. So I definitely want to like work out outdoors more as it gets warmer here. I know that's a big thing in Austin, but
You need to come to Austin.
I think I really
No
do.
mountains, so that's like
That's fine.
that's Texas's one thing is like
Yeah, but
not a lot of
it's
mountain.
you have the culture, you have Barton
Yeah.
Springs. Yeah.
We have hill country,
And it's
so
close.
there
You
are
could drive
hills.
to the mountains, you can drive to New
Yeah.
Mexico or like
Not that I have, but yeah.
northern. Yeah. You have a
I mean,
car,
aside from
right?
when I was moving here, I do have a car, but I have multiple bubbles and Austin is one of them for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's
No, I
so true about
definitely
the
need to
gym.
visit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. No, you would love it. I mean, even like with the way that people approach Christianity here is interesting. It's like it's just such an open-minded place, and there's definitely like, there's definitely multiple orbits and layers socially and culturally for sure. And I don't know. I find it interesting as somebody who's lived in just two places, well, three places, and who's traveled like a little bit throughout the states, I mean, and beyond. But I'm like, it's crazy to me that I have found somewhere where I feel so much resonance. Granted, I think that's actually changing, but like the amount of resonance I feel here. Well, actually, I was telling a friend about this because he was telling me, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm a black sheep. And I was like, well, in Austin, you don't really have to be alone because Austin feels like a city of black sheep. And like we all have been alone so much, but we don't have to be alone here. And it's so nice.
I
Like, and again,
imagine it just being like summer camp. Like it just feels like there's this very playful energy and like I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it feels. It really does. And it's so funny because it's my Pluto line. It just always blows my mind
Oh,
that this is my
wow.
Pluto line
Yeah.
when I do feel so alive and like, yeah, playful
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have to come test it out for yourself. I'm curious what you would think, especially, yeah, considering like your interests.
It seems amazing. I just wonder like it seems pretty swampy in the summertime. Like do you think that would be a bad time to visit?
Like honestly no. Like some people are very heat sensitive. Like I heard recently that there's a condition where that you could have where you don't sweat and it makes heat like insufferable because your body doesn't have a mechanism for responding to it. Like yeah, in that case maybe not ideal, but generally speaking the vibe is so on point that the heat like you forget about it. And I mean yeah, it's like I'd be less inclined to spending as much time outdoors or to be more strategic when I'm spending time outdoors and to hydrate and all of that. But I also feel like I have a high threshold for heat. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't mind the heat either. It's just I'm not used to it as much. With like New York, it doesn't get super hot. I mean, it gets kind of hot, but not crazy.
I say if you feel called to come in the summer, just come in the summer. Like if there's a specific month, regardless of time of year, just come because there's always something going on and like not even in a big sense. It's like there's always a vibe to catch, it seems like. So yeah. Well, let's move into the closing questions. Thank you for staying on a little bit longer. Um, okay, so I'm curious of something that you didn't expect in tapping into your gifts and your essence. Like I know we're all like perpetually on the journey of like honing in on our spirit and like what we're here to do, but and I feel like you've caught that wind and you're like manifesting it through health gossip and just like in pursuing your interests and creating your own perspective on these matters. And yeah, I'm just curious like in this process of honing in on like your thing, at least for now, like was something you didn't expect in that process?
I think for so many years, like in my early 20s, I was so preoccupied by like what my purpose was. And like that was a big thing in my like past relationship was I was just like kind of bored with my life and then seeking fulfillment through my relationship and like not really having other avenues where I was like, I don't know, passionate or like pursuing things. And I was working this like very unaligned job and I was just like, what am I meant to do? Like, there's nothing that I'm working on that I'm excited about. And then yeah, once I kind of started health gossip, that just completely shifted. And it's been quite profound, like to just like suddenly have this thing that I feel like I could like give myself to for the rest of my life. And that I trust is going to evolve like as it's meant to, and also has kind of become its own thing. So that's just been so beautiful and like so nice to kind of a nice way to almost like answer this question that was like plaguing me for so many years. Um, and I think a surprising thing from it has been just like the people that I've connected with through it, like even you, or like, I mean, I guess we met through Grace technically, but, or through Substack, but yeah, the people that I've met and just kind of like the possibilities that I've seen for life just through even interviewing all these people. Like, I think if you use like TBM terminology, it's almost like a directory of like expanders, or it's a nice way to kind of view like all of these different ways of like living life and what's possible. So that's been like a really beautiful surprise. And I think I've also learned how to work with others and not be such like a solo, like almost black sheep, like what you were saying earlier. Um, and to kind of find my role that I was looking for so long and to be a leader in a way too. I think that's been coming up a lot. Yeah, and yeah, I feel very like grateful and honored and I think it's something that is is nourishing me and nourishing the people who are involved and who are reading, and that just feels like such a nice like symbiotic um, relationship to have, and I'm so grateful for that. And when I first started it, that's not really what I was like expecting necessarily. Like I just wanted to create a place where I could kind of like make sense of these things that I was reading on health forums or on Twitter. So, yeah. Um, and I think there's going to be more that continues to surprise me as anything like I feel like with anything that you're putting out into the world, like it takes on a shape of its own. So yeah, those are kind of the main things. It feels like kind of giving birth in a way too, or like having like a
Oh my
child.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I love that you said that. What are you sensing into the future for health gossip?
Yeah, I think more events. And I really want to have more like physical products. So I'm like working on that right now. Um, I've been really inspired by, do you know Soul Bra? He's like this poster in the health space, and he also like has a business where he sells like organic cotton like activewear and then different like very specific like he has like a liquid magnesium, and he just came out with like a um lion like a very pure lion's mane and like salts and stuff. But I don't know, I think it's cool to like just have physical products for people. um and there's a lot of stuff that I personally want that's not available right now, so it's like I just have to create it. um
What?
yeah, yeah, so
Okay, this is
more to come
exciting.
there. Yeah. Yeah, more events. I really want to like do like a proper like weekend retreat. So that's kind of what I'm working on for the summer. Um, yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. It's definitely a lot of work, but yeah, it'd be fun to just have like, different workshops and programming and also make it feel kind of like a health gossip camp almost. Um, yeah, and I don't know. I kind of have been getting the pull to like start some sort of podcast or like do some sort of audio work. So maybe that.
How would you describe your unique essence that you bring to the world?
I feel like I'm the translator, and that's kind of something that's reflected in a lot of my charts. And I feel like I have this role to like kind of translate things that are maybe a little bit more complicated or like esoteric, like for people to apply to their lives. And then also to kind of bring things into existence that people didn't realize they needed. But once they kind of see it or encounter it, they're like, oh my God, where has this been? Or like, this is so nourishing. And I feel that myself too when I like create these things. So, um, yeah, and it almost relates back to like the mother archetype or just kind of like being the bridge between two worlds. Um, I think in Vedic astrology, like I have a few placements that really relate to like fertility and um yeah, just this act of creation and being the bridge. And I do feel like a big part of my purpose is also like being an actual mother, so it's going to be interesting to see like what things will look like when there are like children in the picture. But yeah, and I don't want to like put myself on this pedestal, but I think it's important to kind of model these things for people too, especially for like younger readers. Like, there are definitely some like teenagers who like read the newsletter, and I think it's important to kind of be a model of like what it looks like to live like a high agency lifestyle and to really like put things into motion and not get bogged down by this like victim narrative or this like I'm just a girl, like I'm not good, like, I can't do this. I think, yeah, I think we need more of like this kind of high agency um archetype or just these qualities like modeled. So I strive to like embody that, and it's an ongoing process, of course, but yeah, and just like acting intuitively like on impulses.
Are you an Aries?
I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have that much fire in my chart, but I'm a Leo midheaven, and then my Saturn is in Aries, and it's in the fifth
Yeah.
house.
I think we have the same, obviously not the exact same, but we have like in whole house system the same. Wait, does that make you a Scorpio rising?
Are you also?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
what's your moon?
Okay. Aries.
Oh, I see it. I'm a Taurus moon.
Okay,
So
yeah. I
yeah.
was gonna ask if you have Taurus. And then do you have
Yeah.
were the
And I'm
Vedic
a Taurus
placements you mentioned?
Mercury. Oh yeah, and then Vedic, I'm a Libra rising. And then I think my sun is Taurus. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, very feminine. Lots of
Mm-hmm.
feminine signs. I don't
But
remember
then
if
I have a
Gemini.
Virgo
Gemini's
Mars.
feminine.
Gemini,
Oh,
I
I
don't
can
know
see
if Gemini's
this.
fem. Yeah. I have
I think
Gemini
Gemini might
Venus,
be
Gemini
feminine.
Sun.
Feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
We didn't even.
twins.
Yeah. Or maybe it's one of each.
Yeah, that's true. It could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love
Wow.
Libras.
I feel like a Scorpio so much because I have the Scorpio stellium, but I think lately as I've been stepping more into the feminine, I'm like, oh, let me lean into my Libra. Even though Libra is actually a masculine sign, it's the masculine of Venus, and then Taurus is a feminine of Venus. But it allows me to like, yeah, I think feel the essence. I'm like, yeah, I was thinking of that this morning. I was like, I with the podcast, like I like to make pretty things and just have good conversations. Like that's like part of the point. Yeah. So anyway, okay, last question for you. Where can people find you and work with you or otherwise connect with you?
So I don't really have like a personal Instagram presence these days, but on Instagram I'm at health gossip, health.gossip. And then my newsletter is healthgossip.news, and you can subscribe there. And yeah, and then I have like a Substack profile under my first and last name, and I have an email there if you have any questions or anything. But yeah, that's that's where you can find me. And I am still like freelancing a bit like in the health and wellness space, like with doing like consulting for brands like on Substack and on their like editorial content. Um so if you need any help with that, I'm here.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It was so nice to chat.